As a spokesperson for TZM, I sometimes speak about the movement in regards to what information the movement has brought to my awareness and share that. And sometimes I actually speak on behalf of people that can't make it here. This is a global movement, and we do have communication channels through chat, online, and sometimes emails. So in that global aspect, we sometimes get an opportunity to talk to people that have ideas but aren't necessarily able to stand here and express them to you. I'm going to take more of a Native American approach to this. I originally had asked an individual by the name of Rowan to write something because his speech is really compelling. He's got some great stories. But it was way too long. It was like an hour's worth. It's like, okay. So what I did is I've actually read what he wrote several times over, and I kind of digested it to 2 points. And of course, these are, again, of my own awareness currently about how things are moving. One is the term zeitgeist being the spirit of the times. And of course, this is the zeitgeist movement. And of course, we're, dogmatically katma about our train of thought. And the idea that Rowan had imparted to me that was very important, there were 2 aspects. One is the zeitgeist movement, or the concept of zeitgeist, currently now, though we see the problematic aspect of our reality, is that it is basically what he sees as the information age. That is the zeitgeist. That's not going away. That's the motivator or the impetus between a lot of, if you want to consider negative change, but also what will hopefully become something that's understood and moved and utilized in a, if you want to call it, a positive way. So it may be very difficult to think because we're used to typically thinking that the zeitgeist is something that we're going to go create that allows people to live better. Other than looking at it, we have information now that is our zeitgeist. It doesn't matter what term. That's one thing you got really clear on. Because it doesn't matter if this gets obliterated, that the impetus that got us here, the evolution that got us here, isn't going to go away, short of completely species decimation. And even then, he even questions that we may actually regenerate and some other life form will come up and maybe come to the same conclusion once again. So he sees it as an evolutionary process and pretty much started it from a planetary standpoint and then brought it here through Earth. So that's one of the ideas that he really wanted to impart, was for us to understand that we're in it now. This is the information age. And at times it may not seem that we're doing enough because it's like, well, we're just talking or we're sharing ideas but that's where we're at right now. That's the reality as it is right now. And that's what's important right now. The other aspect in the story that Rowan shared, and he actually shared as a personal experience, was we understand the intellectual process. There's a big question about how people get together in order to effectively make a change. And the story he told was when he was in the Army. I believe he was in the 82nd Airborne, and but I don't remember all the terminology as far as how the military is broken down. But apparently the group that he was with all their passes were pulled for the weekend. And they were all told to sit in the barracks. And then a PR guy came and told them that what they were going to do was pick up weapons, and they were going to go and protect the White House. Now, apparently this was happening right around the time where I believe it was called the moratorium. At that time, it was the largest anti-Vietnam War protest that had happened. They explained to them that most of the people were there. This is the PR talking to the soldiers, that most of the members that were in the crowd as far as protesting were mainly students and common people. But what they anticipated with this next march that was coming up was apparently it was going to be a communist coup. So they were concerned that they would take over and lynch the president. So they wanted the military to be there. They told them that they were giving them live ammo. They also told them that they were not being given orders to shoot, but if they did shoot anybody, that you would not be held responsible for who you shot. And that was pretty much the story that they told them, and then they asked them individually to exit and pick up the weapons. As it was, my friend, our acquaintance, was one of the first ones to go, and he declined. He said no. He said, these are American citizens. They have their right to regress, and they're not doing anything wrong. And they said, well, you're going to go get court-martialed and spend the rest of your days in jail. And he says, okay. They sat him in the barracks, and then the next guy came. Now, you got to understand, they're leaving the barracks, going to a separate room and coming back. And little by little, the barracks is starting to fill up with people. What was interesting, he says, nobody spoke to each other. It wasn't like it was a plot. It wasn't like someone was organizing something to make everyone not pick up those weapons. So what happened after a time is the barracks got full with people who apparently were not willing to pick up the weapons. So then that's when I guess the captain and then the 2 sergeants came in, and now they were taking him individually again into another room. And again, Rowan said, maybe because I was just happened to be sitting next to the guy, they picked me first. This is where the discussion went. He basically said, I take responsibility for everything that I do. He goes, if you tell me to do something and I don't feel it's right, it's my responsibility. What you do to me is your responsibility. So after much frustration, he was sent back to the barracks, and this process went on with everyone else. And again, the barracks was full again. He said at that point, just before he exited the room, the captain told him, I wish this war was declared a legal war, because if it is, I'd shoot you myself. And his comment was, if he could and get away with it, I'm sure he would have. So based on that, they all went back, their passes were reinstated, and nothing happened. It was like it never happened. And apparently this had gone through the entire 82nd Airborne, where people were declining to pick up the weapons to shoot what they felt were Americans within their own rights. So the reason this was important for me to understand was this is one of the questions about en masse, how do we do something? Well, you do it en masse, but you do it individually. You don't necessarily have to have a long discussion about the logistics of things or what you're going to do or how are you going to approach things. When the time is right and the pressure is on, people tend to know what is the right thing to do. It's a thinking process. And of course, the fear is there. He clearly stated, he said, when they told me I was going to go to prison, he goes, if that's the price I have to pay, then that's the price I'm willing to pay. I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. So again, I mention this because these are experiences that a lot of us don't have, unfortunately won't have to have, but it does show me that it is possible to make effective change and not necessarily have everybody on the planet all on the same page, all at the same time. It's a situational imperative that will cause us to start making decisions independently, yet en masse. The first person that steps up, you're usually the loony, really, because you're going counterculture. We're at a party and you're the first one to stand up here and start dancing like, nobody's watching, right? Who validates you is actually the second person. So actually the most important person is the second person that steps up and said, you're not crazy. This is going to work. So yeah, absolutely. Someone needs to take the first step, and don't be afraid to be the second one or the third one. So, what's up? We're so used to let's head towards abundance, abundance, abundance. And it's like, well, let's talk about post-scarcity. It's like, oh, what the hell is that? Right? It's the same thing, but we can use the words to our benefits.
On behalf of the Los Angeles Zeitgeist chapter, we'd like to welcome you to the 4th Annual Global Zeitgeist Day, or Z-Day. Right now around the world, there's in 45 countries from Argentina to Venezuela, we have Z-Day events going on, and this has been happening since 2009. And it's one of our most successful awareness and education events that we do. And it's a positive sign of human unity, progress, and hope. Z-Day is about stirring our social evolution toward a globally sustainable culture. The topics and presentations today covered will be aimed to generate awareness for a new social system in the most technically and socially responsible way. We recognize the world as one system and the human species as a singular unit, sharing a common habitat. Our overarching intent could be summarized as the application of the scientific method for social concern. So to kick off the day's events, we're going to have Jen Wilding come up and introduce halogen solutions. And just to let you know, the schedule is a series of presentations, and then at 4 o'clock we're going to switch to the live stream coming from the main Zeitgeist event in Vancouver, Canada, and that will be Peter Joseph's speech as well as a Q&A. Once again, thanks for being here, and thank you, Sean, for having the USC chapter and letting us use USC, and thank you all for being here, and thank you, our live stream audience. We're happy you're here too. Thank you. This is Jen.